I was the idiot who brought snacks for their movie night. You know, the one where siblings totally hang out half naked in a hotel suite. Let me tell you how I found out my boyfriend might be sleeping with his sister. Yeah, you read that right. Not cousin. Not ex. Not best friend. His sister. His name is Nathan. We'd been together for almost 3 years. I'd met his family, including Emily, his younger sister, the so-called golden child. At first, I thought she was sweet, bubbly, and very close to Nathan in that we survived a tough childhood together kind of way. It made sense that they leaned on each other. Their parents were divorced, and Nathan practically raised her while their mom juggled 2 jobs. It was noble, even admirable. Until it started to feel wrong. Emily would visit our apartment and sit way too close to Nathan on the couch, her legs touching his, laughing at everything he said like a schoolgirl with a crush. At first, I told myself I was reading into things. She's his sister. That would be disgusting. No one goes there, right? But it wasn't just her. It was him too. He would brush her hair back from her face like he was in a rom-com. He called her babe once, then quickly corrected it to Bambina, a nickname from when she was little, he claimed. But his hand lingered on her back too long. The way he looked at her wasn't the way a brother should look at a sister. It wasn't familial. It was possessive. Still, I pushed the thoughts down. Buried them. I didn't want to be the jealous girlfriend accusing a man of doing something unspeakable with his own sibling. I didn't want to be that person. But the night he lied about the hotel changed everything. He said he was going on a 2-day work retreat out of town. He told me not to come, that it was strictly corporate team-building stuff, no partners allowed. Fair. I wished him luck, kissed him goodbye, and went on with my week. But then I noticed that Emily had gone MIA at the exact same time. No updates on her social media, which was weird because she was the queen of oversharing. No stories, no tag locations, nothing. And that gut feeling? It came roaring back like a storm. So I did something I'm not proud of. But also I don't regret it. I bought a hidden camera and placed it behind a bookshelf in the living room facing the front door and the hallway to the bedroom. If he was coming back early or bringing someone over, I'd see it. But he didn't come back. What I did see was much worse. While checking the hidden cam feed on Saturday morning, I noticed movement not in our apartment but in the video storage folder. The camera was motion sensitive and I had synced it to my phone. There was a clip saved under a time he was supposed to be away. Confused, I tapped on it. The footage showed Nathan in our bathroom. Not unusual until Emily walked in. In a towel. Laughing. They were at a hotel. I recognized the layout instantly. It wasn't our home. I could see champagne glasses on the counter. Her hair was damp and his shirt was unbuttoned. Then he pulled her close. Then they kissed. I don't remember if I dropped the phone or threw it. I know I screamed. I know I cried so hard I choked. I know I stayed up the entire night watching the other clips they had filmed because yes, my hidden camera had also picked up their shared cloud folder. Somehow, without even realizing, I had synced to Nathan's account when setting it up on our shared Wi-Fi. His devices had automatically uploaded videos from his finito mine. That's how I got the bathroom photos. That's how I saw them in bed, Emily biting her lip at the camera while Nathan filmed her from behind. That's how my world collapsed. I confronted him the next day. Didn't even wait for him to return. Just sent him screenshots and a voice message that I hope haunts him to this day. You said she was your sister. Is this how you love your family, Nathan? He didn't reply for hours. When he did, it was 3 words. You misunderstood everything. Oh, really? Was it a cultural misunderstanding that led you to put your tongue down your sister's throat? But here's where it gets messy, eh? I called Emily. I wanted to hear her deny it. I wanted her to laugh in my face and say it was a joke, or something, anything. But she didn't. She answered with a sigh. And then she said the words that still send a chill down my spine. I told him we couldn't keep doing this. I felt like I was going to throw up. I had expected her to lie, to gaslight me, to defend it. But no. She admitted it. Like it was some tragic love story. And here's the twist. She's not his biological sister. They were raised together since they were around 8 and 10. Her mom married his dad. They lived as siblings for over a decade. Went to school together. Slept under the same roof. Called each other brother and sister. Introduced themselves that way to friends and co-workers. So even if they weren't related by blood, what does that matter? They grew up as siblings. Shared childhood memories. Family vacations. They were each other's maid of honor and best man at their parents' wedding anniversary. And now, this? Nathan tried to justify it later in a long, pitiful email. He wrote that it started during the pandemic, that they had too much time alone, that no one else understood them the way they understood each other. He called it forbidden but real. I call it disgusting. He said they tried to stop but couldn't, that it was bigger than shame, that he still loved me but she was home to him. I deleted the email. I packed my bags. And I left. But here's the worst part. His mom, Emily's mom, knew. And she told me to be compassionate. She actually said, "You have no idea how much they've been through. It's complicated." No, ma'am. It's not complicated. It's sick. And I don't care if this makes me sound cruel, but I hope they choke on their little incest fantasy while the rest of us go on to live normal, untraumatized lives. I didn't just lose a boyfriend. I lost trust in everything I thought was solid. And I still wake up some nights thinking about that damn hotel room. But you know what I gained? Clarity. And no matter how lonely it gets, I'll never trade that back for lies wrapped in soft towels and champagne bubbles. I thought I had seen the worst of it. I thought the hotel, the videos, the photos, they were the final blow. But life doesn't stop at betrayal. Sometimes it digs deeper. And the next shovel of dirt came from someone I never expected. 2 weeks after I left Nathan, I got a DM on Instagram from a girl named Marissa. I didn't recognize the name at first, but her message? It made my stomach drop. "Hey, I know this is random, but I used to date Nathan years ago. If you're who I think you are, we need to talk. It's about Emily." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to delete it, move on. But curiosity, or maybe the need for closure, won. I messaged back. We agreed to meet at a cafe near my new place. When she walked in, I could already tell she was tense. Her hands were shaking as she stirred her coffee. I dated Nathan when he and Emily were still in high school, she started. We were together for almost a year. But something always felt off. She paused, looked around like she was afraid someone would overhear. "I caught them in his room once," she said quietly. He was shirtless. She was sitting on his bed, wearing his hoodie. He said she was just crying, that she had a nightmare. But the way they looked at each other, God, it made my skin crawl. I didn't breathe. I couldn't. Marissa went on. Told me how Emily always seemed too attached. How she'd show up unannounced during their dates. How she'd text Nathan obsessively, get angry if he didn't reply fast enough. Once she even told Marissa, "You're just a phase. He always comes back to me." At the time, Marissa brushed it off. Thought Emily was just an overprotective sister. Maybe even jealous in a twisted way. But now, in hindsight, it wasn't jealousy, she whispered. It was ownership. Nathan had a pattern. Marissa said every time he got close to another girl, Emily would self-destruct. She'd fake panic attacks, get drunk and call him crying. Once she even threatened to run away if he didn't come home. And Nathan, stupid, loyal Nathan, would always drop everything for her. "She's been in control since they were kids," Marissa said. "But it didn't start physical until college, I think. I heard rumors. Nothing I could prove. But..." She pulled out her phone and showed me an old group photo. A bunch of them at a lake party. Nathan had his arms around Emily's waist. His face was pressed into her neck. It looked intimate. Wrong. Too wrong. But they always insisted they were just close, Marissa added. Everyone who asked got shut down. Hard. I left that cafe with more questions than answers. But something had shifted inside me. This wasn't just about cheating. This wasn't just some forbidden fling between two people who fell in love. This was power. Control. A years-long manipulation that blurred the line between family and obsession. I started going back through old texts, old photos, videos, things I had ignored before. Like the time Emily cried because Nathan canceled brunch with her to take me to a doctor's appointment. Or the night she called me the outsider at a party. Or the look on her face when Nathan kissed me in front of her, not sadness, rage. And then I remembered the birthday dinner. It was last year. I'd planned a surprise for Nathan at a nice restaurant. Emily showed up late, wearing a red dress that hugged her body like she was walking into a date. She kissed Nathan on the cheek, then sat between us. Literally moved my purse out of the way so she could wedge herself closer to him. All night she made little digs. "You don't know his coffee order? Wow. Or he doesn't really like Thai food, but I guess you're learning." I laughed it off then. Everyone did. Even Nathan. But now? It felt like a slow, calculated push to erase me. And the worst part? It worked. That week, I finally blocked both of them. Changed my number. Wiped every trace of their existence from my phone. But I kept the footage. The photos. The messages. Not to dwell, but in case anyone ever dared question what I'd seen. And then came the knock on my door. It was Nathan. I didn't open it at first. But he wouldn't leave. Kept calling out through the wood, please. Just hear me out. I'm not here to beg. I need to explain. I should have ignored him. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I opened the door. He looked like hell. Eyes sunken. Clothes wrinkled. No smugness. Just something that almost looked like fear. I left her, he said, voice hoarse. I told Emily I couldn't do it anymore. I stared at him cold. Do what? Sleep with your sister? She's not my sister, he shot back too quickly. We're not blood. Doesn't matter. He ran his hands through his hair. You don't understand. You never did. You're right, I snapped. I never understood how a person could screw someone they grew up calling family. He winced. She's not stable. She controls everything. Has since we were kids. Our parents are clueless. They always thought she was delicate. But she's not. She's dangerous. I raised an eyebrow. Now she's dangerous? After you spent years playing house with her. I thought it was love, he admitted. I didn't know it wasn't. Until I lost you. For a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. But pity fades when you remember the smell of betrayal. She threatened to hurt herself if I left, he said quietly. She said if I told anyone, she'd tell people I forced her. That I groomed her. I froze. That twist? I didn't see coming. Suddenly, I saw a different side of it all. A power game, yes, but maybe with more layers than I imagined. Maybe Emily wasn't just the manipulator. Maybe Nathan was trapped too. But that doesn't make him innocent. You still had a choice, I said. You always had a choice. And you chose her. He nodded. Silent. Guilty. Then he turned to leave. At the door he paused. She's pregnant. My breath caught. And she says it's mine. The door slammed before I could respond. She's pregnant. And she says it's mine. I stood frozen in my apartment as the echo of his words hung in the air like thick smoke. It didn't matter that the door had slammed. It didn't matter that Nathan was gone. Those words had already burned themselves into the inside of my skull. Pregnant. With her stepbrother's child. Every instinct in my body screamed this is a lie. Emily had already blurred every line of decency, but this was her final checkmate. Her nuclear weapon. For the first time since everything exploded, I felt something unfamiliar rise in my chest. Not just anger. It wasn't enough that she destroyed my relationship. She had to tie him to her permanently. Make sure no woman could ever come close again. A baby isn't just a consequence. With Emily, a baby was strategy. But I needed to know the truth. I tried calling Marissa again. She didn't pick up, but I left her a voice note. Did you ever hear anything about Emily getting pregnant before? Any rumors? I need to know if this is something she's done before. She replied hours later. Once. In college. People said she faked a miscarriage to keep a guy. Turned out she was never pregnant. That was all the confirmation I needed to suspect, but not enough to prove. I wrestled with myself for days. Should I step back and let this mess implode on its own? Or should I do something unthinkable? In the end, I chose the latter. I called Emily. I knew she wouldn't answer if she saw my name, so I used a friend's number. When she picked up, her voice was falsely sweet. Hello. It's me. There was silence on the line. Then why are you calling me? I heard you're pregnant. She laughed. Actually laughed. Like I just told her a joke. Well, you've been keeping tabs, haven't you? I want to know if it's real, I said flatly. Of course it's real, she said smoothly. Unlike you, I don't need to lie to keep someone around. I ignored the bait. Then send me proof. She paused. Excuse me. You heard me. Send me your ultrasound. Blood test. Anything. Or I'm going public with everything: photos, videos, messages. Let the world judge for themselves what kind of siblings you are. Another silence. Then, colder than I'd ever heard her, she hissed, you wouldn't dare. I already did once, I said. You think I won't do it again? I hung up. The next day, an anonymous account posted on Reddit, "My stepbrother and I have been secretly in love for 10 years. Now I'm pregnant. Are we monsters?" It was her. The writing was textbook Emily dramatic, self-victimizing, laced with twisted romanticism. She wanted sympathy. She wanted attention. I screenshotted it, saved it. She thought she could control the narrative. She didn't realize I had already taken back that power. And then, out of nowhere, came the text that nearly broke me. From Nathan. "She's lying. She's not pregnant. She made it up to trap me again. She hacked into my email to send herself fake appointment confirmations." I found the drafts. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him why. Why he kept falling for it. Why he let this continue. Why he didn't walk away when the first line was crossed. But what would that fix? So I replied simply, "I don't care anymore. You two deserve each other." But we weren't done. A few nights later, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a woman named Jenna. "Hey, I used to work at the hotel where Nathan and Emily stayed. I saw your story online. I have security footage. You'll want to see it." My heart stopped. I never shared anything publicly. Not yet. Not on TikTok, not on Reddit, not even my private story. So how did she know? I met Jenna in a parking lot near her work. She showed me a flash drive. "I never thought I'd use this," she said, hands shaking. "But when I read about what they did, it triggered something. I was molested by a cousin growing up. So I know how lines can get twisted in a family." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded and took the drive. At home, I plugged it in and clicked through. There it was. Emily and Nathan walking into the hotel lobby, hand in hand, smiling, her head on his shoulder. Later, elevator footage. Nathan pressed her against the wall, kissing her neck. Emily laughing, her hands under his shirt. And finally, the hallway camera, Emily holding a bottle of wine, Nathan unlocking the door. 3:12 a.m. She dropped the bottle in the hallway. He kissed her before picking it up. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just manipulation. This was mutual. It didn't matter who started it, or whether they were technically related. They chose this. They created a fantasy world where no rules applied, where pain was currency and secrets were armor. And I had lived in that world too long. So I did what I promised. I posted a thread. Nothing graphic. No names. But I told the story, the sister who wasn't really a sister. The hotel footage. The fake pregnancy. The manipulation. The lies. And I ended it with this. They told me I didn't understand. That love is complicated. But real love doesn't hide in hotels. Real love doesn't gaslight. Real love doesn't leave scars. The post went viral overnight. People were horrified. Outraged. Disgusted. Some defended them, of course. Said step-siblings aren't that bad. Others accused me of making it up for attention. But most were on my side. And then the final twist. Emily's mom messaged me. The same woman who once told me to be compassionate. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know how far it had gone. I saw your post." I confronted Emily. She confessed. "Nathan's in therapy. She's moving out. We're cutting her off financially." Didn't bring me joy. But it did bring me peace. Not because they were punished, but because I was finally free. When the post went viral, I thought that would be the end of it. But stories like these ones, soaked in taboo, betrayal, and dark secrets, didn't just end. They ripple. They spread like oil on water, touching everything, contaminating everything. And soon, the consequences came crashing down on both of them. The threat had reached Nathan's workplace. I hadn't mentioned names, but someone eventually connected the dots. A former coworker recognized his face from old Instagram photos and posted in the comments, "Wait, is this Nathan C. from company name? I used to work with him." From there it spiraled. His LinkedIn disappeared overnight. His company issued a vague statement a few days later about inappropriate conduct unbecoming of an employee. In plain words, he was fired. Emily's downfall was less immediate but far more public. Someone had dug up her TikTok account. She used to post dance videos, thirst traps, and fake deep quotes about healing trauma. But once people knew what she was really doing behind the scenes, it turned savage. Her comments exploded. "How's your stepbrother, sweetie? This aged like spoiled milk." There's therapy, and then there's prison. Some people go no contact with toxic siblings. Some people sleep with them. She disabled comments. Then she deleted her account. Then she vanished from the internet altogether. For a week or so I thought that was it. Until I got the message from a burner account, a blurry photo of Emily pregnancy test in hand. Captioned, "This time it's real." I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I'd seen this play before. But what happened next I didn't see coming. One quiet evening, I got a phone call from an unknown number. I picked up expecting silence. But it was her mother. "Please don't hang up," she said, voice low and trembling. I stayed silent. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to talk to someone who's not a liar. And you seem like the only one left." I sat down. She took a deep breath. "I confronted Emily after your post. First she denied everything. Then she screamed, cried, said she was the victim. Said you manipulated the footage. Said Nathan lied to save himself. But the moment I saw the video, I knew." Her voice cracked. I raised her. I should have seen the signs. But I didn't. Or maybe I didn't want to. There was a long pause. Then she said, "There's something I never told anyone. Not even Nathan." My stomach twisted. "Emily isn't mine." I blinked. "What?" "She's not biologically mine. I married her father when she was 6. Her birth mother was unstable, in and out of psych wards. She lost custody after she tried to drown Emily in a bathtub during a psychotic break. The room went cold. She came to live with us like a wounded animal. Skittish. Quiet. But Nathan made her laugh. He protected her. He slept outside her room for months after the incident. I thought it was sweet. Brotherly. I encouraged it." She paused again, then whispered. "But something changed when they hit puberty. They got possessive. Jealous of each other's friends. Emily would sob for hours if Nathan left the house. And Nathan, he started pushing girls away. I thought it was just teenage hormones. I didn't think. I didn't think." I closed my eyes. The mother continued. "I tried to separate them after I walked in on them cuddling too closely once. I sent Emily to live with her aunt for a while. She threw a chair through the window. Screamed until her throat bled. Begged to come back to Nathan. Not home. Not me. Him." She sniffled. "I think I let it happen. I think I enabled it because I was so afraid of losing her." Her voice broke again. "And now she says she's pregnant. And I believe it this time." My heart stopped. She continued, "But she's not keeping it. She said she wants to abort it and send the ultrasound to Nathan so he never forgets her. So he never stops suffering." There was silence. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry for what my silence caused. I'll spend the rest of my life being sorry." She hung up. I sat in the dark for hours, unable to move. What Emily had become wasn't just the result of twisted love or neglect. It was born from trauma, abandonment, and unchecked mental illness. And Nathan? Maybe he was once a savior. But he became part of the monster she needed him to be. The next day, I walked to the park and sat on a bench where Nathan once took me during the early days of our relationship. I remember how he held my hand. How he said, "You're the safest thing I've ever known." How ironic. Now he's the reason I sleep with the light on. But as I watched the leaves sway and strangers pass, I felt something else too, something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness. Not peace, but stillness. A moment between chaos. I realized something then. People like Emily and Nathan leave you bleeding and bewildered, but they also leave you wide awake. They rip off the blindfold. They force you to stop being naive. And I wasn't that girl anymore. Not the one who brought snacks to movie night. Not the one who ignored red flags wrapped in sweet smiles. Not the one who said, "I'm sure it's just his sister." I was someone else now. And I was done keeping their secrets. I thought I'd never see Nathan again. After everything that happened, after the fallout, after the world saw them for what they really were, I thought he would disappear like the nightmare. He was a broken man retreating into the shadows of his own shame. I was wrong. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon just after the rain had stopped. I was unpacking a box of old books in my new apartment when I heard the knock on the door. 3 knocks, slow, calm. I froze for a second, my heart thudding, not because I was scared but because I already knew. I walked over and opened the door. It was him. Nathan. He didn't look like the last time I saw him, still tired but not panicked anymore. There was something heavier about him this time, like he had finally accepted the depth of the damage he caused. I didn't say anything, I didn't invite him, and I just stood there waiting for him to speak. He looked at me like he was really seeing me for the first time, not as his ex, not as the girl he betrayed, not as a chapter in a shameful story, but as a person, a real one whose life he had shattered. "I just came to say one thing," he said, his voice low, rough. I nodded once. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for doing what I couldn't, for exposing it, for ending it." I didn't respond. "Emily's gone," he continued. "I don't know where she is. My mom doesn't either. The police said there's nothing they can do. She's an adult, and unless she's a danger to herself or others, they can't intervene." I asked him if he believed she was really pregnant. "No," he said, shaking his head. "I don't think she ever was. She used it the same way she used everything else, to trap me, to keep me scared, to keep me hers." He looked down at his hands for a moment, then back up. "I'm not here for forgiveness," he said. "I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to know I'm trying to live differently now, to take responsibility, to get help." I stayed silent. He continued, "I see it now. Everything she did, everything I let happen, every time I told myself it wasn't that bad, every time I said it was complicated or that I owed her something because of our past." He paused, breathing unsteadily. "I let her build a cage around both of us, and then I helped her lock it." I finally spoke. "So what now?" He shrugged a little. "I'm in therapy. My mom is too. I'm cutting all ties with Emily. If she ever comes back, I filed a no-contact order just in case. I don't want her near me again. I don't want her near anyone." He hesitated, then looked at me more seriously than I'd ever seen. "And I wanted to tell you, you weren't crazy. You were right. You were always right." The words didn't bring me comfort. They brought grief. Because I remembered all the nights I cried in silence, thinking maybe it was me, maybe I was jealous or controlling or insecure. But no. I was right. I was just the only one brave enough to say it. I asked him one last question. "Did you ever love her like that?" He closed his eyes for a moment. "No, not at first. At first I loved her like a sister, like someone who had been hurt beyond words, but somewhere along the line it twisted. She made me feel like I was the only thing keeping her alive, and I believed it, and then one day I didn't know the difference anymore." He stepped back from the doorway. "I know you probably hate me," he said quietly, "but I hope one day you don't." He turned and walked away. And for the first time since it all began, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hatred. I felt clean. Later that week I received a letter in the mail, no return address, no name, but I knew the handwriting. It was Emily. I opened it slowly, unsure if I was ready, but I read every word. She wrote, "I bet you feel powerful now. I bet you think you saved him, that you exposed me, that you destroyed me. You didn't. I destroyed myself long before you came into the picture. He was the only thing that kept me human, and now he's gone. So maybe I'll become the monster you say I am. Or maybe I already am. Either way, this world was never made for people like me. Goodbye." No signature. Just that final word. Goodbye. I folded the letter and tucked it away. Not to keep her close, but to remember what happens when silence becomes shelter. When trauma is never faced. When love becomes obsession and guilt becomes currency. I survived something that most people wouldn't believe if it hadn't been recorded. But I carry it now, not as a curse, but as armor. Some scars don't fade, but they do harden. And I may never fully trust again. But I'll never ignore the signs again either. Never again will I be the girl who brings snacks to a movie night between siblings. Never again will I hear just his sister and smile politely. 1 year later, you'd think time would heal everything. That's what they say, right? But some stories don't heal. They settle. They bury themselves in the quiet moments. The ones where you're folding laundry or brushing your teeth and suddenly remember how it felt when the world cracked under your feet. I didn't plan to hear from them again. I changed my life, changed my apartment, changed my phone number. But evil doesn't knock when it wants to return. It slithers through the cracks. It waits until you exhale. The first sign came in the form of a message. From a girl named Katie. "Hi, I know this is strange, but did you used to date someone named Nathan C?" My chest clenched. I didn't want to open that door again. But the door had never fully closed. She said they'd been dating for a few months. That he was sweet, quiet, romantic in that wounded way that makes you feel like loving him could save him. But sometimes he would go silent for hours after she mentioned her brother. Or say things like family is complicated and nobody ever really understands what we've been through. It wasn't a red flag. It was a red siren. I asked if she'd ever met Emily. She said no. But once Nathan had a photo of her on his nightstand. Not framed. Just loose. Almost hidden. Like it was sacred. I told Katie the truth. Not for revenge. Not to scare her. But because no one told me. No one warned me that monsters can come in soft voices and sad eyes. She blocked his number that same night. Later she told me Nathan showed up at her building pounding on the door. She never let him in. He stood outside for 20 minutes in the rain screaming that she didn't understand that he couldn't lose another person. That everyone always leaves. Eventually the neighbors called security. And he left. That should have been the end. But the worst stories never end cleanly. 3 weeks later I got a voicemail. From Emily. Her voice had changed. It wasn't dramatic or cold like before. It was empty. Like a house no one lived in anymore. She said, "I'm gone. Don't bother looking for me. I left the country. I started over. Somewhere no one knows me. No one whispers when I enter a room. No one looks at me like I'm cursed." She paused then added, "Nathan's not with me. We're done. For real this time. I burned the last photo of us last night." And for a second I almost believed she was human again. Then she said, "But sometimes I still dream about him. About how we used to sit under the stairs and pretend the world didn't exist. That was the only time I felt real. You ruined that." Then silence. And finally, "I hope you find peace. Even if I never will." Click. That was the last I ever heard from her. But I didn't sleep that night. Because peace isn't a door you close. It's a war you win one battle at a time. And trauma doesn't ask permission to revisit you. It shows up in mirrors and songs and places that smell like memories. I kept thinking about what Emily said. About how I ruined her world. And I realized something. I didn't ruin anything. I told the truth. I refused to be quiet. I refused to be another woman who smiled through suspicion. Who called it complicated when it was disgusting. I made noise. I made people listen. And for that, I am not sorry. I will never be sorry. If you're reading this, and someone tells you she's just my sister or he's like family or you're overthinking it, look closer. Trust your gut. Ask the questions. Push past the polite excuses. Because sometimes the greatest love story someone tells is really a horror story no one else wants to name. But naming it, facing it, that's how it ends. Not neatly, not gently, but it ends. And you walk out. Wounded, yes, but walking. And that is survival.